Welcome to this week's episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in as little as 15 minutes to build your dream business. And now here's your host, the Visibility Wiz, Cindy J.
Hi, I'm Cindy J, the Visibility Wiz, and welcome to this episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in 15 minutes or less. Today, our guest is Gina Decker. She is committed to guiding coaches, authors, and speakers to achieve successful launches that run smoothly. Her company provides done-for-you tech solutions so entrepreneurs can have the business of their dreams and focus on what they love without having to worry about the technology. Gina's mission and commitment is to help you take command of your systems so that you never have to worry about them again. Welcome, Gina.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So just go ahead and hop in here. And first, I'd like to ask you if you would describe a personal or business challenge that you had to overcome in order to achieve your level of success.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I encountered when I did my business full time was learning to get more comfortable with sales. I'm an introvert and I'm a techie and also an academic. And so I was not comfortable with sales. If I could just do my job, do all the technology without having to do sales, I probably would have loved it. But when I first, kind of switched from doing my business part-time and having the day job to quitting the day job and finally doing the business full-time, it was a shock. I just, if I didn't make a sale, I didn't work, or I didn't, have money to pay my bills. Right. So I definitely had to get more comfortable. And I guess my perception of sales, previously was like a car salesman, like sleazy.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like that, but I love helping people. And so I really had to channel that desire to help people into my sales conversations. I took a number of classes. I went to Kate Beater's sales conversations retreat in Boston, and I don't really like to travel, but I have family in Boston, so I went, earlier this year, and I also did hire her as my coach, and so that helped quite a bit. And I had no idea that there was like this mindset thing that I had to work on, in addition to just learning, the sales conversation cycle and just things to ask. But once I kind of became more comfortable, it got to be more fun just because I love helping people. And so, I just kind of came to that conversation with the intention of, helping people, not necessarily to sell them on a particular, product or service. And that really helped me quite a bit. So
that's huge. I love that you said, you was techie, and regardless what type of business somebody's in, they're very comfortable with their services and what they have to offer. And typically it is the sales that's the most scariest because, we don't want to be that pushy salesperson that's trying to shove something down somebody's throat. And I love that you changed your perception. You got the support you needed and you changed your perception. That's definitely where it's at, because otherwise you're never going to grow in any sort of business without sales.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And it's something that I really just had to kind of make my peace with, because, if you're going to be in business, you're going to be doing sales.
Right.
You just have to get used to it.
So I know that, you have an interesting little story about how you even got started in the technology business to begin with. So you want to share that with our listeners?
Yeah. I actually, I have a writing major. I have all liberal arts degrees. It's kind of funny. I have a bachelor's in music and English. So I play classical piano. And I also had a writing degree, and I didn't know really what I was going to do with writing after I finished my bachelor's. And I graduated with at the top of my class, all A's and everything, but I was just like, what do I do with these two degrees? I taught, piano for, I think 1 year, and then I decided to go to law school, and I hated law school. I just hated law school.
That's a huge difference between playing the piano and going to law school.
Oh, yes, yes. And I don't have any lawyers in my family or anything like that. So, and I think it kind of goes back to my perception of lawyers. I mean, that they're pushy and dishonest.
Right.
So I got to law school and I was excelling, but I felt just so stupid. I just, and also I'm very empathetic. And so I'd read all these cases and it's like the worst day of everybody's life. And, a lot of times all this just horrible things would happen in the lawsuits, and I'd get, just weighed down by, the enormity of this, that I was studying. And so, so even though I was doing well, I actually decided to discontinue law school. And I wrote a book called Tales of a Law School Dropout. And it was an ebook, and so I didn't have a print book, so I couldn't really just do sit down, book readings or anything like that. So I took a course from Devorah Lansky, who is a book marketing expert, and it was called Virtual Book Tours. And she taught me about WordPress, and I just loved it. It was so cool. And part of it is like I've worked in technology before. I worked at help desks and stuff like that. But so I just kind of took to WordPress, and people loved my author website so much that they kept on asking me pretty much like a new website a month, to make a website for them. And it just snowballed. It became really my business. And so, I just learned more about the technology, and I just kind of gathered more expertise with different systems. And then, I basically just realized I love technology, and this is kind of what I'm going to be doing. And so it's kind of a surprise to me, like when I had dropped out of the lesson, I'm like, what am I going to do with myself now? Yeah, it was like a pleasant surprise, because I sort of fell into it, and it really just became my career.
I personally believe that whenever you're searching, such as you were searching for a business that you could do that filled your heart with joy, that whenever you're searching, and even though the path can be really windy and twisty and make no sense like yours, but that because you were so open, you allowed yourself to find your passion, which was technology.
Yeah. And I've always been around technology. I have a master's in educational administration as well. And so I've been around databases, and so I understand technology, even though none of my degrees are IT degrees. But I'm also married to a techie. And so, so we're kind of inundated with it. And I just love it. I mean, I just love learning new systems.
Today's society is inundated with technology. And I know one of the things I told you before about your story is years ago, whenever I started out and I made my first website, I had the same experience as you, where people are like, oh, it's so pretty, it's so nice, will you make me one? I did it, I could do it, but I didn't get a lot of joy out of it. And that's what I love about you, is you actually get the joy out of it. It fills your heart with joy to do this. Whereas with me, if I would have went that route, it just would have been another job that I hated.
Yeah. And part of it is I just really like helping, and I like the processes. Every time I learn a new system, I document it. I have all the steps, and I love kind of just, the newness of all of it. So,
And we need people like you.
Right.
And I know that you're also the Joint Venture Insider Circle's tech guru. So how did you become their tech guru?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. So I play classical piano, and Milana, who was one of the original founders of JVIC, she was backstage, and they had a talent show the first year that I attended, and I played piano in the talent show. And she said, well, after that, Gina, what else do you do? And I was like, well, I do tech. And so she invited me to be part of the tech calls. And I started that, I think it was January 2015. So I've been doing that for a really long time. And for a while I was co-hosting with Rob Goyette, who's also a tech guru. I mean, he just knows so much. He used to work on the back end of Christian Michelson's launches for like 7 years or something like that. And now he has his own successful business. And so I kind of just soaked up, all the advice, and now I'm the solo tech guru. So I lead those calls myself, but it's a lot of fun for me. I actually had one earlier today that I just recorded, and I love giving the tips and answering the questions. It's just a lot of fun for me.
Right. And that's what I love about you, is how passionate you are about your business. I believe that if whenever everybody's passionate about their business like you are, that's what makes us all to come together so naturally.
Yeah, it
That
really
really
helps.
does.
I mean, like when you're
Mhm.
doing something that you don't like to do,
Right.
like it carries over into all areas of your life. And so it really helps to do something
Right.
you like to do.
What is some of the common mistakes that you see people make whenever they are launching a product or service?
Yeah, and I've done a lot of launches. I've actually like lost count at, after 35
Hmm.
launches. And so I see a lot of mistakes. And the biggest one actually is not a tech mistake, but it's a niche mistake. People kind of get in and they're really excited and they purchase all this technology and then they don't actually know their niche. Like they don't have clarity on their niche or what they're delivering. I mean, they'll join JBIC in some instances, and then like they won't have a list. They
Right.
really don't have a vision of what who they're serving and
Hmm.
why they're serving them. And so they're like, okay, we'll put up a sales page and we'll throw JVs at it, and it doesn't convert. So I
Right.
mean, that's actually the biggest mistake and pain point that I see with launches is that you kind of get this idea, oh, you can make a lot of money with a launch. Well, yes, you can, but if the idea doesn't convert before,
Hmm.
then if you throw JVs at it, it's not going to make the idea better. I mean, it just,
Right.
so part of it is really just having that clarity as a business owner. What's your genius zone? What are you really good at? And
Hmm.
is there an audience out there
Yeah.
you can
And
serve?
I'd like to add to that just a bit because it's something that I see a lot of people do. And another mistake is they have their niche. They know that they want to teach relationships or diet or health or marketing or whatever. And they know they love doing this, but they really don't know what type of person that they love working with. So, including just their niche, whenever you really get down to that person within the niche, isn't that really whenever it's really you can target market to that person, because instead of targeting everybody about health, you're only targeting people who want to stop using sugar, or you're only targeting people who want to take hikes every month, you know. So it's a little bit more deeper than just a niche. It's really who is your ideal client in that niche.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a little bit of trial and error. I know,
Right.
especially like with my business, I started out, I took, whoever wanted to hire me,
Hmm.
basically, and then I would whittle down. I mean, like over the
Hmm.
years, I know who my ideal client is.
Right.
And I've gotten even more clarity, as I, work with more people. And so part of it is, they teach you
Mhm.
as you work, so if you're
Right.
clients, of course, it's, this very nebulous thing.
Mhm.
Once you start working with people, it will be abundantly clear, like who you like to work with, who you don't like
Mhm.
to work, and how you can best help them. Yeah.
Right. What courses do you teach and how do you help folks that hate technology?
Yeah. A lot of people come to me and they hate technology. I mean, they're having little meltdowns and crying in front of their computer. And it really doesn't have to be that painful. I'll talk to them and see, what they're trying to do. And part of it is sometimes they're doing too much. They're trying to do it themselves. And, sometimes your genius zone is not technology. Like, even though you can do it, doesn't mean you should be doing it. And so
Right.
so sometimes it's really good to outsource that, to your team, and even if you start with a really small team, just having, things like broadcasts in your autoresponder, or just having your lead magnet up, your free gift, and, a sales page, have somebody else do that instead of you trying to do it, it can really help. And so, if you hate technology, sometimes you can just alleviate a lot of that pain just by finding somebody who can help you and getting them to do it for you. And so, I mean, that's why Done For You is in my company name, because, that's what we do. But
Right.
additionally, like I teach courses. And so some of my clients, I mean, it does actually help for them to learn the steps of certain things, or to
Mhm.
have, documentation, so that if anything happens to me, God forbid, or somebody on the team, that they
Right.
can hand off the video to somebody else and they can do it. And a lot of these processes, I mean, they repeat. And so, I mean, I always tell my clients, like, the first launch is hard and then it's rinse and repeat. It's not
Mhm.
like this is rocket science. It happens over and over again. And so a lot of these things you can learn to do And I always recommend at least knowing how to do a broadcast to your list,
Yes.
for instance, just because if your tech team is sick or whatever, and you just have to do a holiday broadcast or whatever, and they're not working, you can always just write to your list and connect it with them in that way. So certain things like that, it's good to know how to do. And then other things is really just having the clarity and really the confidence of saying, look, this is not what I like to do, and I'm just going to have somebody do it for me. So yeah.
I completely agree with you. If technology is not your thing, it's so much easier to let somebody else do it, but also you should at least know what's going on. I don't think ever want to fly blind. Also, lastly, can you share a business strategy with our listeners that they can implement in 15 minutes or less to grow their business?
Yeah, and this is actually not so much of a technology tip, but it's something that's really helped me focus my business and something that I do every day. And actually, I have it right here on a notepad. And so basically what I do is I write out my 6 big rocks. And if you are familiar with Stephen Covey, the author of Seven Highly Effective, Habits of Highly
Seven
Effective.
Habits of Highly Effective
Yeah,
People.
exactly. So he wrote that book, but he also came up with, kind of, this analogy that, the big rocks, if you have a container, you put the big rocks in first, you put the pebbles and then the sand on top of it, and then you have room for all of that. And so basically the big rocks are the things that you really need to get done that day. And so sometimes, it's not even a technology thing, it's like yoga,
Right.
get it done so I'm not going to be stressed out, so stuff like that. And I'm pretty flexible with it. I'll write out my 6 big rocks every morning, and it doesn't even take 15 minutes. It's probably 5 minutes. And so, I write them, and it sets my intention. It kind of grounds me for the day. So rather than, because I used to just wake up and then like read my email, but then you're very reactive. And so you're not being proactive. And so if you set your intention, like I pray in the morning, I do a Bible study, so just kind of doing that grounding really helps me to focus my energies for the day.
Yes.
And it's made a huge difference. And then, in addition to the 6 big rocks, what I usually do is a vision statement. So I'll put something like, I'm feeling brilliant and grateful now that I put it in the present tense as if I've already achieved,
Right.
And I list out my goal. And sometimes the goal, like that vision statement sometimes changes just depending on what I'm, focusing on, that quarter or whatever. So that doesn't it's not like the same statement every year, but that's really easy to do. And it's just a whole lot, focus and be less reactive in my business.
Right. I absolutely love it. I love the way that you integrated so many different little things inside of it also. You will, the affirmation with your big rocks. You did mention hey, sometimes it's the yoga. And what I've noticed people doing in the past, sometimes with these big rocks, is they want to have 6 big rocks for their business, 6 big rocks for their hobby, and 6 big rocks for their personal life. And you cannot do that.
Yeah.
So basically it's, and I just wanted to mention that because I've seen people do that. It's 6 big rocks regardless, because you are a whole person. And so therefore your business and your personal life are so integrated more than ever whenever you're a business person, that it's really important to say what's more important to me. And if it's taking your kid to school, then it's taking your kid to school. If it's doing yoga, it's doing yoga. And if it's, hey, I'm going to spend 4 hours doing nothing but relaxing, then that's what it is. But it helps you get a good balance of both your business and your personal life, I think, whenever you do the big rocks the way you do them.
Yeah. And I had to learn this, just because I'm a people pleaser. And so when I initially started my business, I was working all crazy hours, I was working the day job in addition to the business. So I was working late into the night, on weekends, every holiday, and I got really burnt out, and part of it is my intention for the business is so that it supports my lifestyle, not
Right.
the other way, or detracts from my lifestyle. And, after doing, the first year of the business that way, I realized this is actually not healthy for me, working all these every hour, every weekend. You have to set the boundaries. Part of it is you want to have a life, and technology is just a means to an end. It usually just helps assist in automating things and stuff. But I actually had to set boundaries. Even though I love technology, I have to actually I set my router off in the middle of the night, so that I don't have that energy of, the work, because everybody to unplug. Everybody needs, that rest time. And I actually got insomnia, because I was working just so weird hours, and then the light of the screen is actually bad. It stimulates your eyes. And so and I still have trouble sleeping, to this day, just because I'm so plugged in. And so I had to really set the intention of grounding myself and doing what I love, but also with a balance. That's actually part of my rocks and my vision statement now. I
absolutely love it. And I know we could talk all day about this, but for sake of time here, I do know that you have an awesome gift for our listeners. So can you share that with us?
Yeah, my gift is called Get Your Website Ready for Affiliates Fast, and it's an e-course. And so basically you can sign up for it, and you'll have a link to it. And basically you just sign up and it gives you the steps. A lot of times, people kind of get freaked out by technology. And it's not hard to get affiliate ready. I mean, it's so easy, actually. Like, there's 4 pages, you can have a free gift and the thank you page and the sales page and the thank you page. Like, you don't have to, and of course you can have variations. You can make it more complicated after that, but you can start small. And that's what I recommend. And then that course leads into my nurture sequence. And so a lot of times, especially with the tech calls, I get the same questions over and over, like, what system do you recommend, this and that. And I'm honest, I will tell you, okay, this is the system and these are the downsides and the plus, the pros and cons. So that's what the e-course does.
Yes. And I love the way that you've simplified it and have it just step by step, because so many people need that. And so you want to get Gina's free e-course, Get Your Website Ready for Affiliates Fast, you'll want to visit bizsuccessin15.com. And you'll also be able to re-listen to today's show for any golden nuggets that you might have missed. Gina, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest tip is just do what you love, and you will totally notice a huge difference in your life. If you are doing something that you don't love, I mean, life is too short, delegate the stuff you don't like to do if you still have to, it's part of your processes, and just do what you love. And part of that is confidence, just knowing, what you love to do, and having the serenity to give out the things that you don't like to do.
Right. Absolutely love it. And thank you so much for being our guest today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Gina. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed today's show, feel free to share it with your friends, and hop on over to Biz Success in 15, where you're going to find all of the links from today's show. Gina did mention a few different links, and you'll also be able to re-listen to today's show, catch up on past episodes, and be sure to grab your free e-course, Get Your Website Ready for Affiliates Fast by Gina. So thank you again, Gina. It's been a pleasure, and big hugs. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Biz Success in 15.
Thanks. Bye.
You've been listening to Biz Success in 15. For all links mentioned in today's show, and to watch or listen to previous episodes, visit bizsuccessin15.com. Thanks so much for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for another amazing guest.